Chapter 11. Is there a right of access to information, places, or events? Ask yourself this as a journalist. Do you have the right to access the information you want? 2. Can you be sued or prosecuted for accessing it? General rules with respect to whether you have a right of access to information. Determining whether you have a right to access information can be divided into two categories, private and government. Government information can be divided into three categories depending on which branch of the government it falls under: executive, legislative, and judicial. Private materials. Does one have access to private places or documents owned or held by private parties? Generally, no. A journalist does have the right to request access, but doesn't have the right to demand it. Federal agencies. The Freedom of Information Act created the ability of the right of access to federal executive branch materials. FOIA allows any person to request federal agency records for any purpose. In order to access these records, you must first make a written request. There are 9 statutory exemptions from the Freedom of Information Act. The Sunshine Act of 1976 provides public access to meetings of agencies that are subject to FOIA, although meetings can be closed if they are about national security, agency rules, matters exempt from other laws, confidential business information, personal privacy, law enforcement investigations, banking reports, accusations of criminal activity, regulation of financial institutions, or pending lawsuits. Laws that might affect the ability to access particular types of information. The Privacy Act of 1974, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, the Driver's Privacy Protection Act, and the Health Insurance Probation and Accountability Act. Is there a right of access to press conferences? 1. What is required to get a press pass or credential in the first place? 2. Can a politician deny access to a reporter because of their coverage? The answer: government is not required to give press credential to anyone who asks. Is there a right of access to prisons? There is no right of access to prisons ruled by the Supreme Court, although some state laws grant prisoners the right to allow visitors, including journalists, making it somewhat possible for a reporter to get an interview.